Hi, I'm Joel Marion. Went from broke to 100 million by age 30, and I am one of the passionate few. Yeah, Omar's a rock star. That's why he's Omar the Rock Star on Instagram. That's my guy. He asked some incredible questions. We had an epic interview, and I think you guys are really going to get a lot of insight and inspiration from it. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to this episode of The Passionate Few. Today we get to hear the incredible story of Joel Marion. And for those of you that don't know, Joel went from broke to $100 million by the age of 30. Pretty amazing feat considering at 25 he was making 40 grand a year as a school teacher. So in this interview, we get to hear his whole story, how he got into writing, how he got into copywriting and digital marketing, and how he put his head down and committed with only a few hours of sleep a night over the course of months to be able to figure out this business and succeed massively at it. So I want to encourage you guys to sit back, relax, and enjoy a lot of the wisdom in this one because Joel shares what it takes to be a top achiever, even if you don't think that life is working for you now. It's an amazing story. And plus, Joel came from humble beginnings, so he can relate to you no matter where you're at in life. And also, I want to encourage you guys, if you want to support The Passionate Few, you can check out our Passion Pay shirts in the description below. There you'll be able to purchase your shirt and feel good knowing that for every shirt you purchase, not only will we be donating shirts to the homeless in need, but we're also giving away a free meal. So you can check that out in the description below. Plus, I put together something very special for you guys. If you've ever wanted to start a podcast, if you've ever wanted to start a show, but you have no experience and no following, no clue how to get in touch with guests, I want to serve you. So we've helped you by putting together free PDFs in the description below. You can download those right now, totally free, and you can check out how to start a podcast, how to grow it, how to monetize it if you have a business, and how to get in touch with your dream guests. So check that out. And with no further ado, I want to encourage you guys to sit back, relax, and enjoy the powerful story of Joel Marion. Enjoy. Thanks for being on the show today, Joel.
It's a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, brother. Now, a lot of people have seen not only what you've done in business, but a lot of people might not know that you've also built a huge following, not just in the digital marketing space, but recently on Instagram, right? Yeah. I think in the last 4.5 months, you've grown to over 1 million followers.
Yeah, 4.5 months. It's been a journey, but it's been a fun one.
And it's crazy because a recurring theme in your life and in your career has been you just go all in.
Yeah.
So before we talk about the business success, let's talk about some of the early days because before you became an entrepreneur, you were a teacher, right?
Yeah. So
so talk to me a little bit about that. Like,
I actually double majored in exercise science and health and physical education teaching. That was at the advice of my dad. I had these aspirations. I didn't really know 100% what I wanted to do, but I knew my passion was health and fitness. I had somewhat of a desire to get into personal training, and then my grandmother showed me some some newspaper article that had incomes of different professions.
Yeah.
And then it showed personal trainer, and the average was like $12 an hour or something.
Yeah.
My dad's like, you can't work for $12 an hour. You need to get a good profession. So
Right.
he encouraged me to double major, added another year to me being at university at college. But ultimately, I graduated with both the exercise science background and the health and physical education. As I was trying to get my fitness stuff off the ground with article writing and breaking into fitness publishing, that's when I got into teaching. And I taught for 4 years as I was getting other things off the ground. I had articles, and I ultimately had a book, and then we could get into the story of all that and how that led to me getting into online marketing and information publishing.
So let me get this straight. So at the time you were set on kind of being a teacher, right? Like that was kind of the direction you're headed within the health space.
It's not what I ultimately wanted to do full time, long term, but it was what I could do to make a decent income while I was getting other things off the ground.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so where did you graduate from? Where did you go to school?
The College of New Jersey. I actually spent my first year out at a private university, Christian school called Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We can get into the story of that and how that played a major role that first year in ultimately what I'm doing today. And I hated it while I was out there.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why I was out there. I can see God's hand in all these different pieces of my life. So I spent my first year out there, and then I transferred back home, and I just commuted to a local university, College of New Jersey. Used to be Trenton State University. It's a teacher's college.
Gotcha. So when you went there, your intention was to teach fitness, right, or nutrition, health, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So was that passion born younger? Like, talk to me a little bit about your childhood and what formed the the desire to be fit and the desire to achieve stuff like that early on?
So I wasn't a big exerciser per se when I was younger, and nutrition was kind of lost. Coming from a lower middle class family.
Where'd you grow up?
Trenton, New Jersey was originally until I was about 13 years old, and then I grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia and Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So I wasn't always I wasn't in health, fitness, exercise as a young guy. I didn't have any health, exercise, or fitness influence on me. However, I got into sports. So I was a basketball player. I went to a small Christian school, but we had a powerhouse athletic a basketball program there. At my high school basketball team, we had a 7'1" guy, a 6'10" guy, 6'9" guy, and I was small on the team.
Yeah.
You know, at 6'4".
And you're a pretty big dude.
Yeah,
so
at 6'4", I was small on the team. So I played all through high school, and I was getting ready to graduate, and I had the opportunity to play like Division III small time ball. But I didn't want to let something that I knew was not going to extend beyond college dictate, where I was ultimately going to go to school in my academic future. So I had gone out to Oral Roberts University. I felt like I was being called out there. A friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, who's a year older than me, who we played basketball with all of our lives, was out there already playing for Tulsa University. And then as I was going out there, he transferred back home to Rutgers. So we had these grand plans to like get an apartment together, and obviously that was my best friend. So we had talked about it, and then he had an opportunity to come back home and play for Rutgers. It was just the right fit for him, but I was still going out to Tulsa and ORU. So at the time, we can get in a little bit of the story of me out in Oklahoma. I was majoring in the health and fitness thing, exercise science predominantly, before I transferred back home and added the teaching track to it.
And at that time, were you entering fitness contests? Because I heard one time there was like a big fitness contest that you just said, I'm going to win it, even though you had no clue how you were going to do it. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So while I was out there, this is kind of God's hand in all this. So I go out there, my best friend transfers back home. I feel like very alone out there. I didn't really jive with the Tulsa, Oklahoma crowd. The people at the university seemed a little bit weird to me. Like I didn't feel like I fit in.
Right.
I had a couple friends, but like nothing that outlasted my time there. I hung out with a few people, but once I transferred back home, weren't relationships that extended beyond. So, but while I was there, I spent the first semester there. Didn't love it. I came home for Christmas break, saw all my old friends again, and I was loathing going back. Like I really hated the thought of having to go back to Oklahoma for the second semester. And I told my mom, I said, Mom, there's got to be some way. I don't want to go back.
Right.
Like I don't want to go back. And she said, it's paid for, you're going, get on the plane. And like, I was hating it. I remember being at the airport and literally like in tears, the fact that like I had to go back and leave all my friends again. Yeah.
And it was just the people, the energy, and all your friends were back home.
Right. Yeah, I was very homesick. So
How old were you at that time?
I was 19 years old. I go back out there the second semester, and I took a course where one of the professors was very into health and wellness, and they introduced me to a book called Body for Life by Bill Phillips. Bill Phillips is kind of a fitness legend. Body for Life was on the New York Times bestseller list for well over a year, consistently. And he owned a supplement company called EAS at the time, Myoplex Shakes. It was one of the biggest supplement companies at the time. They had a partner magazine called Muscle Media. So I started learning from Bill. I bought the book, and then I learned that he had this body transformation contest, this 12-week transformation contest. And I was coming off my basketball career. I was starting to get into health and fitness and bodybuilding. And then I learned about Bill Phillips and read his book. And I was just like I do everything, I was just like 100% in. And I entered the contest. And I told all my friends and family, I'm like, I'm entering this contest. And, I'm not a bodybuilder or anything like that. But I'm gonna win this thing. I'm gonna win this thing.
And what made you? Were you kind of like trying to pressure yourself to do it, or like what was
I
the
just
intention
always had this uncommon self-belief in myself that I was destined for something great. And
even when you were a
anything
kid, even when you were younger?
Um, and I guess maybe that stemmed from kind of my relationship at home, where I didn't have the most supportive father, and I was even told to the contrary, like you're not going to make it. You're going to go to school and get kicked out your first year. You're rebellious. You're this. You're that.
You had a
And
chip on
then,
your shoulder to a certain
yeah,
degree.
I did have a chip on my shoulder due to some of the things that were kind of from my own dad. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, I had teachers and mentors that had a lot of positive things to say about me. But I guess there was this chip on my shoulder that, like, I wanted to prove my dad wrong, that I was going to be something.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, whatever I put my mind to, I just had this belief that, like, if I work as hard as possible and I become more obsessed with it than anybody else, that I'm going to come out on top. So that was my mindset coming into the contest. I entered the contest 12 weeks later, submitted my application and all that with all the answers to the questions, before and after photos. And then I got a call later in the year that I had won. And as a kid, I'm 19 years old, 19-year-old kid in college, and won $25,000 of full, all expenses paid trip to Maui, Hawaii. All this other swag that I got, free supplements and all this stuff.
How excited were you when you found out?
Yeah, I'm mad. I was on top of the world because honestly, like, I was so passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ultimately inspire other people to make the same transformation that I did. And I knew that by winning this contest, I would have a much better opportunity to do that. So I became friends with the editor-in-chief of Muscle Media magazine. And
how did you get in touch with him?
Oh, well, he was part of the committee that was the judges of the contest.
Gotcha. So that opened up your network, and they knew your name and gave you a little bit of leverage.
Exactly. So I was a Body for Life champion, which to the Muscle Media crowd was a big deal. And
literally, you weren't that fit at all. You just went deep.
Right.
So you were working out like twice a day. Like, what was your regimen, or what were you doing differently physically that other people weren't?
Yeah, I probably was putting in more than what the book prescribed. I was probably going another 50 to 100% beyond that.
And the diet was perfect.
Yeah, I was very dialed in, dialed in. So after winning the contest, I got introduced to the editor-in-chief there, a guy named David Kennedy, and he said, well, I actually put together an article because I wanted to give back and help other people who wanted to do the same thing that I did. So I put together an article, I submitted it to him. And he said, I enjoyed your perspectives, and what do you think about being a regular contributor to Muscle Media? I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, I would love to be that. This is what I want to do. I want to write. I want to help inspire others. So I started writing for that magazine, and then I started submitting to other magazines, and I wasn't a Body for Life champion to them because I wasn't connected. Muscle Media was a partner magazine, so I had dozens and dozens of my original submissions outside of Muscle Media rejected. And at that point in time, I said to myself, well, there's got to be a reason why. It's not just because nobody likes me. It's not just because I have this special gift that nobody gets or understands. Maybe I just need to be a better writer. So that was my first lesson in that I internalized the rejections and the failures in a way that was positive instead of negative. And instead of saying, oh, maybe this writing thing isn't for me, I'm not good enough.
Right.
I said, well, I'm not good enough right now, but how can I become good enough? So I started studying the magazines that I was submitting to. I started learning what was important to them, the style of articles that they were writing, and I refined my craft and reworked my articles and started submitting again. And before long, within the next 12 to 18 months, I was getting published all over the place. I was published in Men's Fitness, Men's Health. I was on the training advisory board for Men's Fitness. And then I was writing for a lot of online magazines and stuff. And ultimately that led to kind of the next part of the story.
Gotcha.
Where I had my first book published.
So I have a question there, because it seems like one recurring theme, not only in how you built your businesses, but in how you kind of like started from your teens and into your early 20s, is that you go all in when you want something. What is something you notice among maybe competitors that you can tell kind of. You get what I'm saying? Like when there's other writers, your peers, they're also aiming for the same magazines, or the fitness people who are aiming in the same contest. What is it that you were doing differently than everybody else? Like what was the mindset there that was different?
Yeah, so for me, and this is actually something that I teach now, I try to stay extremely focused on what my objective is and not worry about the other people who are doing X, Y, and Z, because now I'm comparing myself to so and so, or I'm thinking about this guy, and instead of thinking of the end goal, the outcome, or the objective. So I think the main thing that was probably different is that other people tend to, in business and writing and whatever, tend to be consumed with the competition when I'm just ultra focused on what my end goal is. And with writing, I knew what I had to do. And no matter how many other people were crowding the space submitting articles as well, I knew if my articles became the best that they possibly could be, then it didn't matter what everyone else was doing, then I would get published.
The rest would take care of itself.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then did you find that like your focus was naturally kind of good, or were you like, because most people would consider themselves having ADD, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I don't know anything, or I'm not good at it, or maybe Joel had a knack for it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you got a lot of that. Oh, you're a natural. So like how much of it was actually conscious effort to like enhance your focus versus you just kind of having that knack for it?
Well, I don't think that I really had a knack for focus. I believe that I was very intentional about it. And if I wanted to do something or accomplish something, then I was all in on it. And I would learn as much as possible, and I would absorb as much as possible. And I would try to be the best that I could be. And I do a lot of self-experimentation. Definitely wasn't that like I had this gift for just being ultra focused, but it was so important to me that I became ultra focused.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And for me, a lot of people say, you accomplished so much, you did this, you did that. Like, how did you stay focused on your goal? And I'm like, well, the goal was the most important thing to me at the time. So I just prioritized what was most important. It became natural once I had my priorities in order. And a lot of people, I think, they overthink the whole focus thing, and it's just concentrate on what you're most passionate about and what your ultimate goal is. And if you want to achieve it that bad, whatever's most important is going to trump everything else. You're going to prioritize it in front of other things.
Gotcha. And then once you get success, it builds momentum and confidence. Just keep going and going.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So continue from there. You basically, at this stage, you start getting published, you start developing some confidence in your writing, and that leads to your first book that you published.
Yeah, so my first book, which is actually another series of failures to even get published.
How old are you at this time?
I was 24 years old.
Okay.
So I'm 24 years old, and I just started teaching. I think this was my second year teaching. And I had been writing articles, which were paying me, as a freelancer, I was getting paid a couple $100s an article. It wasn't anything that was going to pay the bills, but I was developing my platform. And then I had this idea for a book based on an article that I wrote about how to use your favorite foods to accelerate fat loss, which I thought was a very powerful concept. This is about how our bodies go into starvation mode when we decrease calories, and how you can actually regulate your fat-burning hormones by having a cheat day and eating some of your favorite foods, enjoy some pizza. It was like a message that I thought would resonate very well with the weight loss crowd. And it proved to be it proved to be well accepted in the end. I got a book deal, and for somebody who was at my position, I got a $100,000 advance, which is very significant in the traditional publishing world.
How many publishers rejected your book before that?
So it was really not publishers, but it was agents. So there's all these gatekeepers and everything, right? It's like the editors for the magazines, and then it's the agents to get you in front of the editors for the books. So I needed an agent. No one's going to take an unsolicited proposal from an author that they never heard of. You need that agent go-between to be your source of credibility with the publishers. So I was looking for an agent, and I got connected with a few different people from magazine editors that I had come to know through writing articles, and it was just really slow going. Somebody would take a month to get back to me, and then they would ultimately say they had a conflict of interest. It was good, but they couldn't work with me. And then it was another month goes by. I submitted to somebody else. They had a different vision for the book. They wanted it to be a paper book. They were thinking really small. I was thinking really big.
Right.
So it was like a series of 4 or 5 different agents that I had submitted to, and we're like getting 6 months into this. I'm getting really frustrated. Like, this is a winning concept. I felt like almost mass submitting to 100 agents at once, although that's frowned upon in the industry because you don't want multiple people to accept your project.
Right.
And then you have to tell somebody like, oh, I already went with somebody else.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So it's like the one at a time thing was like
Taking too long.
Yeah, it was taking way too long, but that was how I was told to do it. So I said, I'm going to give this one last try. I contacted an editor at Men's Health. I said, do you know anybody else? I talked to this guy, I talked to this guy, I talked to this lady. Ultimately, it didn't work out. Do you know anybody else that would be a good fit? And he gave me somebody's name, a guy, Mel Berger. And said, well, Mel Berger, I don't know him personally. Can't give you any contact information, but I know that he's worked on a number of big books. He's worked on The Zone with Barry Sears. He's currently working with Montel Williams on his book. He works with LL Cool J on his fitness book. He's like, I think he might be a good fit for the project. So I didn't get any direct contact information, no intro or anything like that. So it was time for me to like put my detective hat on and just trying to get in touch with this guy. I found like on the Wayback Machine or something like that an email address for him, and I emailed him, and unfortunately it still was a good email address. He got back to me relatively quickly and said, it sounds like an interesting concept. I'm going to read your material this weekend and I will get back to you on Monday. Which he did. He was the fastest person to get back to me. Monday, he contacts me and says, I love it. Let's go to work. I'll send you an agency contract and we'll see what we can do for you. Signed the contract. 2 days later, he gives me a call and says, I just had lunch with somebody who was an editor-in-chief at Random House, which is one of the biggest New York City publishers. Yeah. He's the editor-in-chief at Random House, and they won an exclusive submission for the rights to the book. So I said, well, what would you do? They said, normally we'd start with an exclusive. If the deal is not materializing or it's not big enough, then we'll submit elsewhere. But I think you'll be in really good hands with these people as long as they come to play. So I went to New York. I had a meeting. I over-delivered, performed well in the meeting. I got a call the next day and said they're offering $100,000 for the book. I think if we take some other meetings, we might be able to drive up the price a little bit. But ultimately, I think this is the right team. And we had really good energy in the room in the meeting, so I felt like it was a good team. So the editor-in-chief there was Heather Jackson, and she had worked with Tim Ferriss on 4 Hour Workweek, on 4 Hour Body.
And what year is this?
This is going back probably like 2006-ish, somewhere around there.
And how old are you now?
I'm 25. Yeah.
Well, no, now, today.
Today, 36.
36, got it, yeah.
Yeah, so this was 11 years ago. She took my project on. We went through the whole editorial process, the publishing, the book launches, and the book flops. For all intents and purposes, the book flops. I mean,
And you got an advance for $100,000.
Yeah, I got an advance for $100,000, which that's based on a 15% royalty of the cover price. Is worked out to be like $3 and something per book, right?
Gotcha.
I think in total that book to this day has sold maybe 5,000 copies, right? So 5,000 copies times like $15,000 that I actually earned of that advance. But that's the way the publishing industry works. It's kind of a controlled, legalized gambling.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna put an advance out there. There's nothing in the contract that says like I have to pay it back or anything like that if it doesn't perform.
Yeah.
It's an advance against royalties that come in. I wouldn't make any additional royalties until that was made up. But the fact that I didn't actually sell that many copies, didn't affect me in any way.
Gotcha.
Other than the fact that I felt like this was the end of my career. It wasn't really even that, because they're used to that in the publishing industry. They take risks on first-time offers and stuff, and think like it's going to be big. I'm actually very good friends with the editor still now, and we do some cool stuff together, and we're looking to rekindle the relationship and maybe do another book now.
But at that time, when you got $100,000, what's going through your mind at 24?
Yeah,
because it's probably the biggest check you've ever seen in your life.
Right, I had a $25,000 check from Body for Life, and then like next thing you know, I get a $100,000 check from a publisher. I'm a teacher making $42,000 a year, and I'm like, well, this is it. I really felt like that was the break that I needed. I freaking plowed away with all the article rejections. Finally made it in that industry and became a published author in the trade magazines. I dealt with all the rejections from all these agents, Here I am. After I got the right agent on board, it turned around really quickly. Got a $100,000 book deal. This is it. Like, this is the path to my future right here.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a New York Times bestselling author. I wanted to share and inspire in the health and fitness and nutrition category with multiple books, future books. So then the book launches and the book flops, doesn't do well at all. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, I'm never going to get another book deal. You know, the people are going to see the performance of this book, and then that's the end of the road for me when it comes to being an author. At the same time, I'm thinking, what's plan B or what's plan C? You know, I can go back to teaching and just live an average life, or I can try and figure it out. So.
And at this time, are you aiming to be like a multimillionaire? Is that like a goal?
My goal at that time was to make $20,000 a month. That was my goal.
Why 20?
That's just the number I picked. You know,
just because it's $250,000 a year or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, I was making $40,000 a year as a teacher and a couple $100 here and there on articles.
Yeah.
But I said to myself, if I can make $20,000 a year, I mean $20,000 a month, like I'm freaking set. You know, like
How does that number compare to your mindset now?
Yeah, well, obviously we smashed that goal, and then we smashed another goal, and then it was to make $100,000 a month, and then the iPad years, full calendar years where I made over $1 million a month.
Yeah.
So the $20,000 was obviously because I hadn't experienced anything greater at that point in time, and that was so much higher than where I was at currently.
Right.
And I feel, with people in goal setting, that's how it works, right? You set a goal that seems kind of ambitious compared to where you are now, but once you hit that goal, it's either you're going to just get comfortable there, or you're going to realize that, hey, I was here and I achieved this huge goal. Now that I'm here, I can probably set the bar a little bit higher and achieve that. And we just went through that cycle.
So you do it in steps. You didn't do it like I want to make $100 million. You're
Yeah.
just like, let me make $20,000 a month.
As a high school teacher, like $100 million at business is like, I never would have even dreamed that or thought that at that point.
Right.
You know?
If you would have told the 25-year-old you that you would run that in your 30s, how would you have felt then?
I feel like there's been a lot of times in my life where I look back and said, I kind of want to know what's going on 10 years from now,
Yeah.
Because I don't even think that my mind right now understands the potential and the capability that where I'm going to be when I'm 45.
Right.
So looking back, if somebody, when I was 25, if somebody told me like, hey, you're going to be running 100, when you're 30 years old, you're going to be running $100 million supplement company, I would wouldn't even know what to think, right?
Yeah.
It would be beyond me, beside me, to even think at that level at the time. But as you experience some success, then you start to get used to it, right? And then you raise the bar, you do the next level.
And it becomes normal to a certain degree, right? It doesn't become this big epic, oh my God thing.
It doesn't become shocking anymore.
Right, it's just a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Okay, so at that time, that's your big break. You start getting some confidence. You're 25. What happens next?
All right, so the book flops, and that was a heartbreaker for me. I'm facing the reality of having to go back to teaching or figure out something else. And I actually did go back to teaching that next year while I was learning online marketing. And because I did not want the end of my story to be the book that flopped. I did not want the end of my story to be, oh, you're just going to be an average physical education teacher for the rest of your life. Not that there's anything wrong with people who teach. I have loads of respect for people who are educating our youth. I think it's one of the most underappreciated, underrated positions. But for me, there are aspects that I loved of it, but it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I had bigger goals and ambitions. I kind of go back to the drawing board. I knew some guys who were writing in the magazine industry who had information products. They were selling DVDs on the side. They owned their own gym. They were writing articles, and then they had these information products, which they're selling ebooks or DVDs or whatever.
So how did you initially discover digital marketing? Through these guys?
Yeah, it was through other friends of mine in the magazine publishing industry. And some of them were making like $10,000 a month off of digital ebooks or DVDs or whatever their information product was. They're making like $10,000 a month. And to me, I was like, well, if I can make $10,000 a month selling information products, as opposed to being a teacher and working for the man and dealing with the bureaucracy, the administration, all
That's
that,
right,
like I'll take that all day. So let me throw my hat in this ring of information publishing, right?
And had no clue how to do any of it.
No, I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing, and the reason that my book flopped is because I didn't understand marketing at all. I expected the publisher to sell all the books, like, hey, I'm going to bring you a great concept, and then the publisher's going to get in the bookstores, and there's going to be all these displays and all this stuff, and then next thing you know, they're going to give me all these TV shows. Next thing you know, the books are flying off the shelf because of my relationship with this publisher.
Right.
Now, we didn't get the big breaks. We didn't get on Oprah or Dr. Oz or any of the morning shows or anything. I got on a couple local news things, helped move, a couple $100, a couple $100, per appearance or whatever. But it wasn't anything earth-shattering. And that's when I learned that if I am going to be successful in this, I'm going to have to learn to control my own destiny. And I found out that I needed to develop my platform more and understand marketing. So I kind of came from the world that, with these guys who were doing these information products, and I wanted to learn that. So I started learning. I learned from a guy named Ryan Lee, who was teaching personal trainers to create information products. Meanwhile, there's a side note, funny story. I'm known, I'm a marketing guy now. I head up marketing for a $100 million company. I sell. I negotiate constantly. That's all I do with partners that promote us and all that. I'm negotiating deals and selling nonstop. When I was in college, I did an internship as a personal trainer. I was at a Gold's Gym. I was the worst sales guy in the entire facility.
Yeah.
Like they had 9 trainers there, and I was always at the bottom.
Why is that?
At the time, I kind of thought sales and marketing had this negative stigma, like the pushy. I don't want to be a sales guy. I don't want to, if somebody wants
people if they're not comfortable.
Right, right, exactly. I don't want to walk up to people while they're training and try and sell them on my services or whatever. I didn't want to be pushy. Now I understand if you have something of value to offer, you're doing this disservice to the world by not getting it out there or advertising it or trying to get it in front of people or convince people or persuade people to get on board with what you're doing. So that's the side story. That's my humble beginning in sales, where I was terrible. But all these things are a learned skill, right? So right. I got into learning about online marketing. I took a bunch of courses. I became pretty much obsessed with it. As you mentioned before, if I do something, it's going to be all in.
Yeah, and what's the 100%. One word, off camera we were talking about it, what's the one word you would say you would attribute to what it takes to master your craft?
Yeah, it's I mentioned tenacity, and it's really just going over and over and over again, no matter what happens, no matter how many people push you down along the way, no matter how many no's you get, no matter how many obstacles are in your way, no matter how many failures you have to power through that and push through and get to the other side, because there is something special waiting on the other side. But most people never get to the other side because they're not tenacious enough, not persistent enough. They give up too quickly. They heard too many no's. Somebody did them wrong, and this sort of circumstances caused them to fall behind in the race in their dream, and other people got ahead of them, and then that was it. It was over. Instead of realizing that we have a lifetime, we're running this race for a lifetime, we're playing this game for a lifetime. I'm dealt a hand, but I'm really the only person in the game, and I'm destined to win. All I have to do is put my cards out there when it's time, but you have to stay in the game. That's the big part of it.
I love that. Yeah. That's powerful. So then at that time, you see the information product, start learning, and then you go, all right, I want to test my first one. Yeah. So what's going through your mind at this time?
So
this is like 10 years ago, right?
Yeah. This is 10 years. This is 2008.
So you're like 26, 27?
Yep. It's 2008, going into the 2009 school year. I was 26 years old. I learned sales copy from Guy Yannick Silver. I learned this information product thing from Ryan Lee, and I was ready to get going. So I wrote my own my first sales letter for a coaching program that I had. It was $197 a month.
Fitness coaching?
Fitness coaching. They would get a customized nutrition and supplementation and exercise program every month.
customized to their needs and information and stuff like
yeah,
that.
it was
Okay.
by application only. I had about 2,000 people on my newsletter list through the article writing that I was doing. I had my own personal website, but I never was doing anything to drive traffic there. It was just all organic. So these were like my best fans, right?
Gotcha, yeah.
So I had 2,000 people there. I wrote a sales letter that drove to an application, and then we closed the deal on through email on the back end or phone call if necessary. So I promoted that, and we got like 48 people in at $197 a month,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it was a 4-month minimum. So here I am, a teacher, and now I'm making like 9 to 10 grand a month off this coaching program as I'm going back to teach school.
And that's your first even attempt at it.
Yeah, exactly. So here I am. I'm going from $42,000 a year, getting back into the teaching game, knowing that I wanted to do other things, knowing that I wanted to ultimately do something much bigger. I was, putting my foot down, learning all this stuff, going in another direction, and here I am. I'm making almost 10 grand a month now.
And are you tripping out that it's working? Like, oh my God, I can't believe this.
So I launched the first the coaching program, right? And then I saw the first applications come in, and then I replied with what to do next, and here's a PayPal link and all this to sign up. And I, the first 4 or 5 people who came in was pretty surreal. It was like, this could be something.
Where was all this money all along?
Yeah, this is $200 a month, and here I am. I'm making a couple grand a month.
$3-4 grand a month or whatever. Yeah.
And now, like, I got 5 people signed up, $200. That's $1,000 a month extra right now. If that's where it stopped, like, I'm like, oh, this is great extra income. I pay a car payment with this or whatever.
Right.
So I was excited. I was excited about it. And then by the time the promotion ended, we're promoting it for 3 or 4 days. We're sitting there and I'm making 10 grand a month now. So that's when I really said, all right, this can work. I started to really believe that this isn't just an idea, but this I'm seeing it in action. There's actually orders being placed and revenue coming in.
And at this time, you're going deep learning, taking courses, reading.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just like you were like a natural.
So here's my life that year, okay? This is a 2008, 2009 school year, and this is what my daily life looked like. I'd wake up at 5:30. I'd be at school teaching my first class at 7 a.m. Any break that the kids had whatsoever, working on the business, sending emails to people I want to connect with, throwing headphones on while kids are testing, listening to marketing courses. My lunch break was like all learning and.
Were you listening
writing.
to Dan Kennedy, Gary Halpert?
Dan Kennedy's, Frank Kern, Jeff Walker's guys, Yannick Silver, the direct response legends, Ryan Lee.
On how to sell, how to market, how to write, how to make offers.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Yeah, different types of information products, higher priced, high ticket items, all this kind of stuff. So here, I'm working all day long, but every break I have an opportunity to work a little bit more on the business or absorb some more knowledge. I'm doing it. Then I come home, 3:30, take a power nap for 30 minutes, get some food in my system, and then I'm working to 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning every day, up at 5:30 the next day.
So you're getting 3 hours of sleep a night?
Yeah. I slept for 3 hours a night for 9 months straight. Every weekend was all business. I didn't see my friends for months, like I was just, I was on a mission. I had to get out of this teaching gig and I had to launch this new thing, like with authority, like I couldn't just slow play it and then hope it would work. I knew I had to be all in on it. So, I would catch up with my friends here and there. I'd call somebody and catch up if somebody was close to me. But I saw them much, much less frequently than I was used to, and it was because my new mission, my new focus was getting out of teaching and getting this online marketing thing off the ground.
To 20 grand a month. Was that the goal?
Right, yeah, it's 20 grand a month. Yeah, I'm at 10. If I get 20, I'm gold, So I was networking my butt off and leading with value. And this is something I teach often.
The power of networking.
Yeah, it's all about what can I do for you. I connected with the top people in the industry when I had very little to offer because I had the right attitude, and the resources that I did have, I gave freely of them. Like, hey, I write for this website or this magazine, which I could interview you for that. I'm somebody who has a traditionally published book on the men's fitness advisory board, I'll write an expert testimonial or a blurb that you can include on your website about your book. So any value add that I could offer to somebody, I offered it. I became really good friends with all the top guys in the industry, which ultimately wouldn't have meant anything unless I had all my marketing ducks in a row when I came to launching my first product. But I had all these great friends that I did so much for, everything that I could over a period of months. And then it rolls around April 2009, and I'm launching my first book, okay, my first ebook. Now, this is an interesting story because I took the same concept that was my failed print book that flopped, Cheat to Lose Diet, and I turned it into an e-course called Cheat Your Way Thin.
Cheat Your Way Thin.
Yeah. You would think, why would you take a flop book concept and then try and sell it again? Like you're setting yourself up for failure. But I knew what the problem was the first time around. It wasn't the content of the book. It was just that nobody heard about it. I couldn't get it in front of enough people. I didn't have the platform to really blow it up. But I knew it was good. So I repackaged it. I rewrote it. I turned it into a multi-manual course.
How many pages was it?
The original book was about 270 pages, had recipes and all this stuff in there, but we extracted all that stuff out. And this is one of the reasons why we were able to charge so much more. So the book was $24.95, and through most retailers or Amazon, you pay like 17 or 18 bucks for it. Had all the same content, just repackaged into my e-course. We broke it up into 4 or 5 manuals. And we took the recipes out, and we include that as separate manuals. The meal plans out, and that was a separate manual.
It was like a free bonus or something like that. Yeah.
Right. So you had the main diet manual, which is the how-to of the diet, and then you had all these bonuses stacked on there. We sold it for $47. And then there was an upgrade with some extra add-ons where you could upgrade to a $97 package. We sold like 6,000 or 7,000 units of that.
How long did that take? Go back to like the first day you launched.
Yeah. This is a fun day for me. So I had all my ducks in a row. I was on ClickBank. ClickBank is the largest digital marketplace in the world
for affiliates and affiliate offers.
Correct. Yeah. So here I am launching this ebook. I had hired our mutual friend Craig Valentine as my coach. I worked with him on some of the copy. I was actually in one of his masterminds just a few months prior to launching my ebook. They helped me really refine it. I was like 80 to 85% the way there, and they helped me get it 100%.
And he was the first coach you hired too, right?
Yeah, it was the first. And that was an interesting thing because I was a broke physical education teacher. I was $20,000 in credit card debt. I was making $40,000 a year just paying the bills and going deeper and deeper into credit card debt, overextending myself. And I paid $3,000 to have Craig coach me. And my girlfriend at the time told me, like, it was a big fight for us, you know. Like, yeah. I can't believe that you're going to spend $3,000 on this sales thing. You're dreaming. What are you thinking? This is stupid. Just save your money.
Yeah.
Needless to say, you know, that's not the girl that I ultimately end up with.
Right.
And that was the catalyst for me being really successful because I got all the extra knowledge I needed to take an offer that was 80% the way there to 100%.
So how important is coaching in your opinion?
Extremely important. I still have coaches to this day. You know, I'm running a $100 million company. I still have mentors, still have coaches. I just joined a mastermind group with 2 other individuals who I stand to learn a lot from in different areas that I'm getting into.
And we were just at BioTrust Empire Mastermind the last couple of days. So yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, so the whole mastermind opportunities, get a lot of like-minded people in the same room, and you're learning from smart people who have been there, done that. It's huge. So I go to launch my first ebook, first day of the launch. Okay, I was running on very little sleep for a very long period of time going into this, and I'm working full time, right? But I took the next day off. I was just launching my product and taking the day off. You know, I called in sick.
Yeah, and check the numbers every 5 minutes.
Yeah,
right?
I called in sick, and I didn't go to bed until maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I had affiliates start promoting at midnight, so I know there was traffic coming in. But
and
it was almost like
the affiliates were people that you had interviewed prior and built relationships with.
Yeah, like all the top guys in fitness, e-publishing, information publishing, I was friends with. And I had done solids for them in one way or another, and they were just like, let me know how I can support you, bro. Let me know what I can do for you. I'm like, well, I am getting ready to launch an ebook. You know? So we had a really robust sales funnel in place. I knew I had a good feeling that I was going to do well. I felt like I really prepped very well. The copy was really good. I got great feedback from Craig and other people who actually have done this and knew it, and they said this should, this is good. This should do really well. And I had a lot of people lined up to promote it. So I go to bed like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. This already like maybe 3 hours into the launch, right? And
So you launched it at midnight or something?
yeah, I launched it at midnight, and I didn't check the stats though because I was like a little freaked out. I didn't want to look. Let me check in the morning. Let me go to sleep.
Give it more time.
So I slept maybe 4 or 5 hours or whatever. I wake up and I log into my ClickBank account, and it says $25,000. There's like a bar for your daily sales, right? So the day before was 0, and then there was $25,000, and this was at like 8 a.m. or something. So I didn't fully understand the ClickBank platform at that time, and I didn't know if I still had to pay affiliates because they're offering 75% commission. So I was like, all right, well, if I'm offering 75% commission, I made 25 grand. Does that mean like I really only made like 6 grand?
Right, yeah.
Or do I have to still pay affiliates, or is this my portion after commission? So I called ClickBank, and I get on the phone with some customer service rep. I told her my account name, and I said, we just started a new promotion. This is my first time on ClickBank. I'm not really familiar with the platform. Like I'm kind of new to this ebook thing. I see my account, it says $25,000. Do I still have to pay affiliates out of that, or is that mine? She's like, oh no, that's all yours. She's like, that's your take home.
That's your 25%.
Yeah. And she's like, you're doing pretty good. I'm like, all right, thanks. So then I hung up the phone. I'm freaking on top of the world.
Yeah.
Like
You just made 25 grand in your sleep.
Right. Exactly. I went to bed. I woke up to 25 grand, and then that's when I was like, all right, this is what I worked so hard for, and now I'm in control of my own destiny. I don't have to worry about the publisher getting me these media placements.
Right.
I don't have to worry about other people doing this and that. I'm in control here. I built the relationships. I built the marketing knowledge. I understand what I'm doing, and I knew it was going to be sustainable because I already put the legwork in.
What'd you tell your girlfriend?
At the time, we had already broken up. But so at that time, I ended up personally making over $100,000 over the course of the 3-day launch.
So over 3 days.
Over 3 days, I netted 100 grand. We did $461,000 gross. And that was
your first.
That was my first launch. It was my first ebook launch.
So 461 grand in how many days?
3 days. Yeah.
You did $461,000
in gross sales, and my take home was over 100 grand on that.
And you were making 40 grand as a teacher.
Right.
So your life.
The next day, naturally, I go into and I submit my letter of resignation, and I stuck out the rest of the school year out of respect. Obviously, I didn't want to leave them hanging and walk out the door or anything like that. But I just let them know, like, I won't be back next year. You'll need to find a replacement.
Did you enjoy? I gotta ask. Did you enjoy work a hell of a lot more the rest of those couple months finishing up the year? Was it a lot less?
Yeah,
stressful?
because I didn't give a crap anymore about all the rules and whatever.
Politics and all that. Yeah.
The politics of dealing with the administration. The principals think they're God's gift to
the education system. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and you have to stay after school for all these BS meetings and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And like if I was a little late to a meeting, I didn't care, and it wasn't that like I was disrespectful about it. It was just like I was working on other things, and I didn't worry about the minutia of what if I didn't follow every single rule that this administration had put in place. And I really focused on the kids during that time. It really truly became about the kids because I knew like, hey, if they fired me or whatever, that's what I wanted to be anyway. Like if you couldn't fire me fast enough. But it really became about 100% about the kids and not about, hey, how am I going to perform in my next evaluation when someone's sitting in on my class or whatever. And I always did well on that stuff anyway, but you just had a much more relaxed atmosphere about what you're doing and where you're going because you know that you're getting ready to go out, you're heading out the door anyway.
Yeah, you don't need
and you can focus on what's most important. And the thing that I loved about teaching was the impact on the kids. And I got to focus on that for the last 3 months.
That's amazing. So for people who are like unfamiliar with digital marketing, like, can you explain a little bit about how you went about making that money? Because a lot of people won't make that over the course of a decade.
Yeah.
So can you explain the power of, affiliates and building an email list and stuff like that, just for people who don't have that much context, just to show them how it's possible to do something like
Yeah.
that?
So direct response marketing was just a couple of components to it. One is building a marketing funnel that works, and that comes down to learning the art of sales comp, words that sell. You agitate the end users, your potential customers' pain points. You highlight the pain points, you agitate them, you make them realize that they need to make a change, and then you provide a solution to their problem. And that's what a sales letter really is. And there's multiple ways to present a sales letter. We have these things called video sales letters, which are video-based sales funnels. And then we have kind of what's known as a long-form sales page or a long-form sales funnel, which is a big headline at the top, and then you get into all the rest of the marketing materials, establishing credibility and teaching people something, providing some value, hitting on the pain points, and then pivoting to the solution.
And then
So-
reaching people, in terms of reaching people, obviously to do a $461,000 launch.
So that all came through affiliates. I didn't do any paid advertising. I didn't run any Facebook ads. Facebook wasn't even really a popular thing back then. I just focused on having the relationships that I built with other health publishers. They were my traffic source. They were the driving, and we took care of them very well.
Meaning they had large email lists, right?
Exactly. These were other publishers in the health and fitness information marketing space who already were doing this for a while. So they had large customer lists or lead lists or whatever. My largest affiliate had an email list of about 500,000 people. At the time, Mike Geary, who spoke at this recent mastermind.
Right.
He was the big dog of the group, but then we had a lot of other people that had 100,000, 200,000. Some people had 50,000. So I had this army of affiliates. I had about 50 people do at least one sale for that launch. 50 different affiliate partners. I think Mike Geary did 700 or 800 sales or something like that as the number one affiliate, and then the top 10. It kind of gradually went down from there. But I had over 50 people who were promoting and did at least one sale.
And you offered basically a 75% commission to them to incentivize them to want to do it.
Right, exactly. We would give 75% of whatever the revenue that came in on the customer would go to the affiliate. Nowadays, we pay 100%. The game has changed a little bit, and we understand the value of acquiring a customer and shipping that initial purchase, the full revenue over to the affiliate. And the more you can pay, obviously, the more traffic you can get.
Yeah, and the lifetime value of that customer makes it worthwhile when you own the emails yourself.
Right.
Gotcha. So at that point, you finish the year, you start making money. At what point do you become a millionaire?
Within the first year. Yeah, within the first year of me launching, I think I made just over $1 million profit.
How old were you at that time?
I was, I think, 27. It was also a dream of mine to move down to Florida. I grew up in New Jersey in the Northeast. The winters are pretty harsh, and I wanted to get out of there as soon as I could. I didn't know how I was going to get out of there, but I even said when I was a teacher, like I need to not live here. I think I'm somebody who's affected by seasonal affective disorder pretty badly. So when it's cold and it's dark at 4 o'clock, like I just became really unproductive, almost borderline depressed by it. It was just a gloomy time in the winter. And I wanted to get out of there. So I put in my resignation, finished out the school year. I put a deposit. I came down to Tampa, Florida. I knew no one there. I don't know why I chose Tampa. I just kind of did. And they had a sports team there, so I thought it was like a
Tampa Bay Buccaneers,
a decent sized city, right? Anyway, I put a deposit down on this condo and that I was leasing, and I was off to the races. I moved down in September.
Do you remember telling your family like that you made $1 million? Or I mean, because you must have been freaking out at the time, right? Like now it's commonplace to do that, in multiples a month. But at that time, what's flowing through your mind?
At the time, it was a little bit surreal. But obviously, I shared what was going on with my mom, who I then told my dad, and then next thing you know, family was congratulating me and stuff. They were genuinely happy for me. I told them I was leaving teaching and I was moving to Florida. They're a little bit, especially my mom was a little bit sad to hear that, but
Yeah.
you know, she understood. If she had her way, she lived down in Florida too. But
Yeah.
my dad is stuck in New Jersey, so
Yeah.
um, you know, I think that it was the end. That April is when I launched the ebook. Within a year, I had made just over $1 million. And then I did the ebook thing for several years. I built that business up to doing over $10 million a year.
And how long?
That was maybe 3 years.
Because from 27 to 30, that's only 3 or 4
Right,
years. So
yeah, 3 years.
So you went from your first million to 100 million in 3 or 4 years, running the $100 million company.
Yeah.
Okay, so walk me through that sort of gradual
Right.
upswing.
So I became known as the launch guy. You know, I ran the biggest launch in fitness history, my very first launch.
So that your very first launch was the biggest fitness
The biggest
launch?
ever on ClickBank in the information publishing space in the fitness industry. It was the biggest ever by far.
Ever.
Yeah, by far. I think
Wow.
the next guy who ran anything even close to that was maybe a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
So we more than doubled the
Yeah.
biggest launch before that.
And
And
you
I just
attribute
had
that-
a knack for like getting everybody on board to one common goal. You know, is we're going to launch this on this date. We're going to make a lot of noise here during this 3-day period. And I rallied all these people to join that mission on the same time, and no one was really doing that before, you know.
So what are some key takeaways you could give to whether it's digital marketers out there, other entrepreneurs out there that are leveraging their network on how to rally the troops in a sense, right? Because at that time, are you a people person? Are you a social guy? I mean, how important is building your network?
I've always been a social guy. I've always been somebody who's considered to be very generous. I give my resources freely. I deposit in what I call my Goodwill bank account in every relationship. That way, when I want to take a withdrawal and I want to ask for a favor, I know that I already have a surplus of funds in that account, and I'm just going to take a small portion of that out by asking for a favor. You know, so I have that Goodwill bank account that I already established with all these people. So that's number one. You have to have a surplus of funds in your Goodwill bank account with each one of those relationships. Number two is I incentivize people a lot because we did a bunch of additional prizes. So we're going to pay 75% commission, which you're used to, but then we're going to run an affiliate contest. And the top 10 people, we're going to have a private mastermind in Tampa, Florida, where the big dogs are all going to get together and network. It's going to be on my dime. I'm going to fly you guys down, put you up in a hotel. We're going to have a really fun weekend planned for you. A lot of networking, a lot of partying, food, great dinners, all this stuff. So the opportunity to network was kind of the carrot that was dangled. And then we had cash prizes on top of that. So if you came in first place, you got $10,000. You came in second place, you got an additional $5,000. You came in third place, it was $3,000 or $2,500, whatever it was. And we had cash prizes for the top 5 people, and then the top 10 got invited to this private mastermind. So because of all those incentives and all that stuff going on, and because I had established all that goodwill with these people, they wanted to support me, they were all on board and set aside those dates for me. Now, again, if they mailed it and it bombed, like I would have got one mailing at everybody and that's it, you know.
Yeah.
That probably would have been the end of my career there.
Right.
But I had put all my ducks in a row to, ensure success, not only for myself, but for everybody else involved. So when we rallied those troops, boom, like we made a big bang. And then I repeated it over and over and over again. And that's actually how I met my partner in the supplement industry.
So that became your formula, in a sense, your recipe.
Yeah.
So real quick, before we move on in the story, to people listening out there, whether they're in the digital marketing space or any business, can you talk about the importance of networking and how important it is to be an effective and powerful networker in life and business?
Yeah, so in whatever industry you're in, you're not going to be able to get to the top by yourself, and at least not quickly.
Yeah.
You may be able to do it over a lifetime or something, but I'm talking about leapfrogging and making fast moves, right? And I'm all about quick moves, fast moves, building things quickly. And in order to do that, you need to have that army of support around you, and it needs to be a win-win relationship. If you can give a win-win, like, hey, I'm going to make you a lot of money. You don't have to do any of the work. I'm going to put all the work into creating this marketing funnel. I'm going to pay you very handsomely for be willing to promote me. I'm going to test all the email creative. I'm going to give you all the marketing assets. I'm going to make sure it's a home run for you. Huge win for you. And it's also a win for me because I got you promoting and then I got 50 other people promoting at the same time. So it's, even though I'm getting a small slice of the pie on every sale, times 50, it works out for me
Yeah,
pretty
it's a
well.
lot of slices of pie. Yeah.
Right, a lot of slices of pie that I'm eating, and and at the same time, I'm building my customer file. Right. So I would encourage anybody who's interested in, entering an industry and becoming well known in that industry or making a bang in that industry. I did this all within a year. There were guys who were in this industry for 4 or 5 years before I entered into it. And I was the guy who kind of connected the dots for everybody and brought everybody together, rallied everybody together. I started having these private mastermind events, and there was nobody really doing that in the industry at the time. It's become more popularized now, but I was really the guy who started in the fitness information marketing line of work because I just wanted to get people together. I wanted I wanted to add value to other people's lives. And when you add value, it's very easy to attract people to you. And then ultimately you have this booming network of loyal people who are so loyal to you. I have so many people in the industry who all I have to do is reach out to them and ask them for something and they're on it. Even if it had no monetary connection to it, there's no win for them. I've already just deposited so much in that Goodwill bank account that if I'm going to ask them for a favor, I need their help on something, boom, they're there for me immediately.
Done. Yeah.
And then when it comes to me launching a new marketing funnel, 100% they're on board. They know it's going to convert. They have a track record of 10 years of delivering winners to them. So, I mean, the power of what you're able to do with a network behind you and this kind of affiliate army, it doesn't necessarily have to be even affiliates, but just other people connect you to other people who can help you, move toward whatever it is your next goal is within that industry. And that's really one of the major reasons why I got on Instagram and I started building that so quickly was to, as I'm moving into this new portion of my career of personal development and inspiring others, I wanted to connect with other inspirers. So I built that quick. And
I think it's important for people to know that you started your Instagram about 4.5 months ago from the time of this taping.
Yeah.
And you're over 1 million followers.
Yes.
That's incredible,
I've talked to a number of guys who have worked with entrepreneur influencers. Dan Fleischman, whose office we're in right now.
Thanks, Dan.
And my other buddy, Alan, and Paul, the internet marketing nerd, who run some ads for me. And they all have said, like, we have never seen anybody in the entrepreneur space come in and have 1 million followers in the shortest period of time that you have in 4 months. Not in 6 months, not in a year. So how did I do that? Why did I do that? It's just like anything else. I know we haven't really talked about the supplement stuff yet and how that all happened, but just to sidetrack real quick on Instagram, that's how I do everything. I go all in. I want to have the most possible impact that I possibly can, and that doesn't mean slow playing my hand. That means going all in and being aggressive as possible to ultimately impact as many people and achieve, whatever my ultimate goal is, which is impact here as quickly as possible.
Mm. So what would be your top 3 tips to grow your Instagram, aside from boosted posts and ads and stuff like that for your content?
We found giveaways to be extremely effective. We give away ebooks that we've written, which we call free reports, but we also call them ebooks on Instagram because people tend to understand that lingo a little bit better. So we give away ebooks, and then we also give away some Apple products, electronics, iPads, and stuff like that. We use those as lead magnets to get people to follow. Hey, if you follow, we do a weekly drawing for an iPad, or if you follow, we guarantee you every single person who follows will give you this free report. We'll post it to our bio link on this date. So we've used lead magnets to encourage people to sign up and follow. And then after they're following, it's the job of my content, obviously, to keep them around, right? Not to unfollow and to engage with the posts. So we also do a weekly drawing for either phone consultation with me or some iPads or ebooks or an eCourse that I have. We do a weekly giveaway, and we incentivize people to comment and like the image and comment. As long as you comment, we tell them to turn post notifications on. We have contests around turning notifications on. That doesn't mean that they have to turn on notifications for everyone who posts that they follow. It's just they're selecting to turn on to be notified when you make a post. So they're following Joel, Marion, and then I encourage them to sign up or to click the three dots at the top of this image and turn on post notifications. And now they're going to be notified every time I make a post. So that even though they're not logged into Instagram, they're not checking it at the time, they get a notification on their phone that I posted a new image. They enjoy following me, they enjoy my content, so they swipe and go and they check it out. Then we incentivize them to comment through additional giveaways, the weekly giveaways that we have. As long as you comment within the first 10 minutes, you have notifications on, you'll be eligible. And the second part of that is, even if you missed the 10-minute window, as long as you post on as long as you comment on every post of the week, you'll be eligible. So we have people who may have missed the last few days. They'll go back and make comments, which is why we're getting constant comments on the last 7 days of posts all the time.
Yeah, I see them. They're like thousands of comments, man. Yeah.
I had one post which was one of these notification contests that has, I think, like 7,400 comments on it, and that was this past week.
I love that. And part of what you told me prior in private was that a lot of why you've done that is because you're not necessarily monetizing it. Is that for you, it's a big part of your impact, right? You believe that it's your mission from God to reach as many people as possible. So we'll get more into your story, but can you talk a little bit about that now, like what your sort of goal and your vision is now?
So, I've done the info marketing thing for a long time, very profitably. I transitioned into supplements for the last 6 years. Extremely profitable. We built a company from zero to over $100 million in 18 months, and it's been over $100 million a year since. We've had, obviously it worked out extremely well for me financially, and we also helped a lot of people along the way. Charity is a big part of what we do with BioTrust. We give back. We've donated over $1.6 million to Make-A-Wish Foundation for kids who are suffering with potentially life-threatening diseases. Just giving them, their wish, their ultimate dream.
That's amazing.
Sometimes it's meeting a celebrity and hanging out with somebody that they really admire. Sometimes it's for one of the kids that we recently did it for. They wanted to be in a video game, so we synced them up with a video game company. They made a video game with this kid as the main character.
No way.
Yeah. So
That's
that was
amazing.
incredible for the impact it can make on these kids through Make-A-Wish. Is something that we strongly believe in. And then with every order that we fulfill, we donate a meal through No Kid Hungry to feed a hungry child. And we have over 3 million orders shipped, so we've fed over 3 million kids.
That's incredible.
No Kid Hungry.
I got to shake your hand to that one, man. I love that. And that's through BioTrust, right? That's the name of your company?
Yeah. So we've made that impact there, right? And we've done other, I could go on about the charity work that we've done through BioTrust. And fortunately, we have the financial resources to do that. The company has been really profitable. Capitalism, we're able to give back. It's been awesome. We're helping people get healthy and get fit. But I always felt like there was something more. There was a little something more that I needed to, or maybe a lot something more that I needed to be doing with the gifts that I have. I have this ability to create these massive followings quickly. I have this ability to grow email lists and Instagram followings, and anything that I really put my hand to, I can grow pretty quickly because I have the marketing expertise to do it, right? And I understand how to connect with the right people who can help me along the way as well. So, which is one of the reasons why I connected with you. So I wanted to do something bigger, get a bigger message out there and impact people just beyond this lifetime. If I help somebody get six-pack abs, that's awesome. But if that's all I help them do, I'm really falling short of what my ultimate calling is, which is to impact people for eternity. So that's where I'm moving right now. I'm going from what I like to call from career to calling. I've achieved quite a bit of success financially and then also in business. And any way you want to look at that, my professional career to date, most people would say that Joel Marion has been pretty successful at what he's done. However, where I'm lacking is the ultimate impact beyond just the health and fitness category or just beyond how my products are going to serve somebody in this lifetime. How is my message going to impact somebody beyond this lifetime? How is my legacy going to impact the world beyond when people, everyone expires at some point on this life, but you don't expire forever. You and I both, as people of faith, we understand that like there's a whole other realm out there.
Right.
We're here for a short season, and then how are we preparing people for what's next? So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm moving career to calling. That's why I hopped on Instagram and grew that so quickly to get an inspirational message out, a message of hope, pointing people who are some people. There's a lot of hurting people out there.
Yes,
You know,
so true.
a lot of hurting people out there, and they're looking for inspiration. And it's constant encouragement to me. The DMs that I get and the comments that are left.
You must get hundreds of them all the time.
Yeah, like literally, life's changed, man. Like life's changed, and it's not just hey, I had high blood pressure and now I don't. Which is great, but it's like I was depressed. I was thinking about taking my life, and I read one of your posts, and I put the gun down, type of thing. And that right there is like you feel like, wow, you're having such a deep impact, and it goes far beyond just health and wellness, and that's what I'm most excited about right now.
Yeah, you're doing God's work.
Yeah.
It's way more fulfilling than just money or chasing some sort of arbitrary thing like that. So let's go back to it. And also, real quick, people who are interested in learning more about you, you have a podcast coming out soon, right?
Yeah. So when I got on Instagram, I have a timeline of how I want to do all this, right? And so I said, I'm going to get on Instagram. I'm going to get 1 million followers within 6 months. That's my goal, and I was hyper focused on that.
So check.
So boom, 4.5 months later, done. And then I said, once I hit 1 million followers, I am going to launch this podcast called Born to Impact. And I have a vision for this podcast where it's a leadership podcast where I am going to do some teaching of my own, but also an interview style podcast like you're doing yourself, and you do so well. I'm going to have entrepreneur. I'm very well connected in 2 different circuits. One, the church circuit with faith-based leaders, and the other, obviously, business with entrepreneurial leaders. So my vision for the podcast and my ultimate goal here is that 1 week I may have an entrepreneurial leader sharing some business insights. Another week I might have a church leader or faith-based leader sharing some really great leadership insights with faith and family and things of that nature. And ultimately, I like to bring the 2 worlds together and have some panels and stuff where we can bat around some really important topics, and the entrepreneurial leaders can weigh in at the same time as the faith leaders, and they all can inspire one another. Because I think that
that's missing nowadays. Yeah.
It's very separate. There's the church leaders are all speaking at each other's events. They're all they're buddies. They're all hanging out, doing life together, which is awesome. And then there's entrepreneurial leaders, same thing. You see the Grant Cardones, the Ed Milet's, Ty Lopez's, all these guys. They're speaking at each other's events. They're doing life together. They're hanging out with each other. They're movers and shakers. But there's like this whole other group on both sides that we're not connecting the dots. And I feel like it's a big part of my calling is to connect those dots.
That's powerful, man. So, okay, now let's go back to the story. So $1 million at 27, you realize you're onto something here, and now it's time to build something bigger. So what do you do from there to 30?
So I partnered with a guy, Josh Bozzoni, on an ebook launch. I was known as the launch guy, and I got connected through a mutual friend to this guy, Josh, who wanted to launch an ebook. He came from the supplement industry, was getting into information marketing. He wanted to connect with me about running a launch. I ended up partnering with him on that, working in a consultant role with him. I did all the marketing. I rallied all the affiliates. He produced a product, and I basically taught him my whole formula. He wrote a lot of the copy, but he was modeling my formula. We built like 100,000 person pre-launch email list for that, for the anticipation. And then when we went live with it, we did over $1 million in sales in 6 days, I think it was.
6 days.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was not the first $1 million launch. I had the first $1 million launch. Here's another funny story. The very first product that I did $1 million on as an ebook was called Extreme Fat Loss Diet. This was an article that I wrote for Men's Health and had submitted to them. I thought it was a really cool concept that I came up with. It was extremely strategic, but it was also extremely extreme. And I submitted it to Men's Health, and the editor at the time told me, no one is ever going to do this program. Like, it's way too extreme. Like, you're ambitious and creative for thinking of it, but like, our readers would never do this. No one's ever going to do this. Just like, it's a kind of a cool idea, but just hang it up. Like, no one's ever going to. it's not practical for anyone to do.
Which motivated you to do it.
Right. So I said, okay, then I turned it into an ebook. We launched it. We did $1.4 million in less than a week on that. And then I held a transformation contest.
Yeah.
With that very ebook program. We did $1.4 million. We over 20,000 customers came through the funnel within less than a week.
And this is you're not spending any money on ads. This is all through organic
all
email
affiliates
lists.
at the time. It was all affiliates.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you grew those email lists by giving out free reports or writing or growing the email
And
lists
we
or
had
creating free
affiliates that
content.
promoted a free report or something to get them into the funnel to learn about the product we're about to launch. And then they were very pre-qualified when we launched the product.
So I just want to get context, because what's the first $1 million product you make? Is it what you were talking about on your first launch ever, or is it this one that's the first $1 million launch?
So it was this one. Yeah. The Cheat Your Way Thin, the model that we had going at the time was kind of a launch and die model, where you would discount a program for the launch, you would do big sales with this big affiliate push for a period of time, and then you just kind of milk the email list and the customers to get them other complementary products, supplements, other things like that that they would want. But you didn't sell a whole lot of that same program after the launch. Extreme Fat Loss Diet, when we launched it, we did the first $1 million launch. That was a program that the editor told me no one would ever do. We had transformation contest on it, and we had people who lost between 20 and 30, many people who lost between 20 and 30 pounds doing this program, which I then forwarded to the editor and said, looks like a few people end up doing it, you know?
What did he say when you told him that?
Yeah, he kind of laughed and said, I think everybody does it. If it's done tactfully, it's definitely, I was still friends with the guy,
Yeah, so you weren't a jerk about it.
Yeah. I just wanted to show you, like, hey, remember the article that you rejected that you told me nobody would ever do? Well, not only did we just do $1 million launch on it, but here's a bunch of before and afters from people who did it.
Wow, yeah. So lives changed.
He's like, oh, you were right on that one. It's looks like you were right on that one. So yeah.
And how long was that ebook?
That was very similar to the other things that I put. We have a main diet manual is probably 40 to 50 pages.
Gotcha.
And then you have these supplementary manuals with recipes and meal plans and stuff like that.
And you're selling them for like $47 or something like that.
That was $67 at the time. The landscape, now it's hard to charge that in today's day and age because so many people are doing these free plus shipping offers and giving stuff away for free. It's harder to get the premium price points for ebook packs. But at the time, this was 2010. The $67 price point worked really well. Converted. We split tested it versus 77 and 47. 67 ended up being a winning price point. And we did over $1 million on that launch.
In a week, less than a week.
In a week, yeah. So the second one was when I partnered with Josh Bozzoni, who's my partner in the supplement industry. We worked really well together. We crushed the launch. We stayed friends after that, and then maybe a little over a year later, he told me he was interested in getting back into supplements, and said, "Hey, man, we worked so well together on this. You're like the LeBron James of marketing in our industry. There's nobody else that I'd rather partner with than you. What do you think about going in on supplements?" And I was already promoting another supplement company on the back end of all my products, and we were selling a lot of it.
So you were an affiliate too for others?
Yeah, I was an affiliate for supplement company, yeah.
And a lot of people don't know this, but this is a fun fact. Your email list to date is how large? This blew my mind when I heard about this.
The BioTrust email list is over 16 million subscribers. And
16 million email addresses.
And then the other ebook list that I built over the last year is now over 1 million. It's 1.6 million, and the active subscribers is probably in the 800,000 to 900,000 range. That's active within the last 30 days. And that's a pretty short window to count as active. If I panned it out to 108 people who have opened or clicked an email in the last 6 months, be a much larger segment, probably 1.2, 1.3 million. And that's just in the last year, yeah.
And that's all through not only, obviously you bought some of those, some of them were actually generated leads, but that's years and years and years of building that list, right?
Yeah.
So how many years in total would you say it took to get 16 million from zero?
6. Yeah, that's where we're at today. We started 2012.
Wow.
Yeah, well, we had a 7-figure list of email subscribers within the first year, though.
And you attribute that to what? To the affiliates? A big
well,
part
it's
of
affiliates, it's paid media. It was us understanding the data. One of the biggest things that I bring to the table with my skill set is the ability to interpret data, and the fact that once the list starts growing, and we're publishing content every single day, so we have 30 plus email sends over the course of a month, and we can go back and we look at all that data and we see what worked and what didn't. We can say, okay, we picked the top 3 campaigns that we sent over the last 30 days. And these are the home runs. These are the ones that got exceptionally high open rates. And then our next free report that we're using as a lead magnet, we just pick whatever people already said that they wanted. So we have all that data. That way, I told somebody earlier today, like, we don't ever come out with duds. We come out with home runs, and then we turn them into grand slams through optimization. But we have the data to know, like, we already know this is going to work, because every time we send a newsletter about this, it's got a sky high open rate and really high engagement. So when we create a free report around it and then we put that out into the world as a lead magnet, we know people are going to flock to it.
Gotcha. So 2 quick questions, on the technical side. Nowadays, what's considered a good open rate for emails?
20% would be considered good. Up towards 30% would be considered great. My one email list opens at about 18%, the larger one. And then the most recent, the one that's a little bit newer, opens up at about 26-27%.
Gotcha. And then the second question would be, what's an average cost per lead? So say somebody themselves is offering their first free ebook, or they're taking their first foray into digital marketing. On average, how much should it cost? Is it considered good? Obviously, it varies depending on the product and the nature of the industry. But what's an average considered good per email?
So I'm going to speak from acquiring leads from other email lists. And if you're using that, which is the highest quality lead that you can get, because someone's already responding to an email and opting into your email list, you know that they're an email responder. So from other email lists, around $2 a lead. Sub $2 a lead, you're doing great. Around $2 is good, would be what I consider would be average. And then up to $3, you can make the numbers work.
And then how about in cold traffic?
On cold traffic,
Facebook,
on Facebook
Instagram.
and stuff like that, you can get leads a lot cheaper depending on the targeting and all that, especially if you're targeting international and all these types of things. But if you're looking for U.S. leads within your target demographic, you're probably looking at anywhere from 75 cents to $1.50 on Facebook to be able to back it out.
But it's not going to be as quality per se.
It's not going to be as quality
Gotcha.
as from affiliates or from other email lists. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So then going back, so Josh hits you up and says, "Hey Joel, what do you think about starting a supplement company? You're 28 years old, give or take."
Yep.
And so what happens from there?
So I said, let's do it, because I was already selling so much supplements on the back end already. I knew that it was a great fit for my customers. And if I can own a supplement company and build some equity value in a company selling something that I know my customers are already going to buy, let's make it happen. So we both were running successful e-publishing businesses. So we had cash reserves. We collectively both put in $1 million in total to start the company up, to buy inventory. We had 4 SKUs. We bought 5,000 units of each SKU. And then we wanted to have some money in the bank. And then plus we needed to pay salaries for our initial team. Started with 8 people. It's a pretty small team. And our goal was to do $10 million that first year. We had it written on a sheet of paper. Still have the sheet of paper. It says what the company goals for the first year. And it's to come out with this many offers and to ultimately do the top line revenue of $10 million. We did something like $88 million in the first 12 months. And our first full calendar year in business, we were over $100 million. So that was a little bit crazy, right? We had a team of 8 people. We had this team of 8 people, and we're like, hoping to do 10 million. And next thing you know, like, we're doing 10 million in a month. Like, by month 4, we're doing 10 million in a month. And we were just bailing water, for a long time, trying to keep our head above water and trying to keep the ship from sinking, honestly.
Were you guys prepared with the supplies of all the supplements? Like, what kind of supplements were you guys selling?
We weren't. We had 5,000 units of each flavor of protein. We had a probiotic. We had a digestive enzyme. And then we had like a all-natural metabolism support product. So we had 4 products that we started with, and we had 5,000 of each. With the protein, it was 5,000 of each flavor. We launched the protein, and we sold out within the first week. Then it was like 10 weeks to get more protein.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there and we're pissed because we're like, we know this stuff is going to sell like gangbusters. We just sold out in a week, and it's going to take us 10 more weeks to get more product.
To resupply the order.
So then we just pivoted and said, all right, well, we have these other products, let's sell them. Meanwhile, we ordered more of everything.
Right.
We ordered more of everything because we saw this was going to be such a hit. So we ordered more of everything. We sold out the rest of the inventory. We were able to expedite for one or two of the products. There's a quicker delivery date than the protein. And very, very quickly, I mean, we're very profitable. We had a very high average order value.
88 million the first year.
Yeah.
Wow.
The first 12 months. So we launched in July of 2012. In July of 2013, we had done 88 million. Our first full calendar year was 2013, was over 100 million.
And at that time, that's way next level compared to what you were used to in digital marketing, right?
Yeah, we both were running companies doing our $10 to $12 million a year.
So you're doing about $1 million a month, and then that 10x'd basically per month.
We 10x'd it, and we 10x'd everything. We went from a team of 8 to over 150 in the first year, now over 250 employees. And we went from doing, no revenue as a startup to over 100 million. It was a pretty crazy, insane time. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's dominantly going to be through your email list and the affiliates. So same thing, same plug and play system that you had been building.
Yeah, and then we started expanding into cold media. My first taste of cold media was with BioTrust, and that's how we were able to scale so much bigger than outside of the affiliate realm. So we had affiliates, we had our internal email lists, mine and Josh's from our e-publishing businesses. And then we started doing what's called cold email, which you can rent other people's email lists. So you have like a Men's Health or a Newsmax or somebody like that who will send on your behalf to their list from them, but they'll promote your product and you pay them a flat fee to rent the list. So we rented a bunch of email lists. So it's like getting a ton of new affiliates on board. It's a little bit more expensive than what you would pay an affiliate, but there's a crap ton of inventory out there, so it's very scalable. So we started doing that, and then we started running Facebook ads, then we started messing around with Google Display Network. At one point in time, we were running about $3 million a month ad spend on Google Display Network to several of our video sales letter funnels.
What's your guys' ad spend currently a day?
Currently, right now, it's probably in the 50 to 60 grand range.
A day?
Yeah.
And although you guys' products are phenomenal with BioTrust, how much do you attribute, because there's people out there listening that are blown away by these numbers, right? And, especially nowadays, a lot of people are getting the entrepreneurial bug, trying out not only supplements, but trying their own little pop-up companies and startups. Mm-hmm. How important would you say marketing is compared to actually just having a great product? Like, can you weigh in on that?
Well, they both really go hand in hand. Our R&D department, we attribute a lot of our success to, because we're not just trying to sell somebody something once. Mm-hmm. Marketing can sell anyone anything once. Mm-hmm. But if you don't deliver on the goods, they're not going to rebuy. You're not going to have a good lifetime value for the customer. So the tandem between great, effective products and superior marketing. Superior marketing is going to bring people in. It's also going to encourage people to rebuy. But if the products aren't good and they don't have a good experience, then you're never going to have what you want as far as a sustainable long-term business that's growing month after month. Not only is the product important, but the third part of that is customer service. Because we don't do everything perfect. Sometimes we screw up on an order. Sometimes we ship the wrong product. At times a shipment gets delayed. It's something out of our control with the carrier, but we take responsibility as ultimately the company that they purchased from, and we make it right with the customer. We one of the foundations of our business in the early days were we were going to overstaff customer service to have just an impeccable customer service experience. Wait times on the phone, like up to 1 minute, are acceptable by any standard. We wanted to have less than 10-second hold time.
You want it to be pretty instant. Yeah.
So, and most of the time it was no wait time. They got a hold of somebody. So we overstaffed customer service. Everyone had a superior experience. If they needed something, they could call, and boom, someone picks up the phone. Or waiting on hold for minutes at a time. Mm-hmm. We trained our staff to empower them to have they didn't have to get approval on making the situation right with the customer. We said, hey, if it costs less than $100, just make it right with the customer. If they're very adamant about whatever it is that their problem is, and even if someone's becoming irate or whatever, don't tell them that you can't do it. Tell them that you can do it. If it's less than $100, tell them you can do it. If it's more than $100, get a supervisor on the phone, and more than likely we'll still be able to make it work. But we're all about delivering impeccable customer service, great products, and then of course superior marketing on the front end. Those three things together is what really makes the engine go. And next thing you know, you're traveling at Ferrari speed, and now you're a $100 million company.
So how about when it comes to customer service, when it comes to partners, obviously an important element of any business is having effective team members, right? So what's your thoughts on what it takes to not only build a culture of quality employees and a quality team, but to attract talent, right? Because I'm sure you know that certain people can be dead weight, right? Like if your team isn't running at optimal speed. So what have you found to be your best advice to people out there building their own team or their own business on how to recruit effective team members?
So we recruit first and foremost based on skill and experience, and then it's our job to lead them, right?
To build a culture.
And build the culture and have them buy into our vision and our mission. It's our job, me and Josh, as leaders and our executive team, to empower the people who are under them, to have them feel comfortable, to have an environment where people aren't scared to bring up an idea, fear of being ridiculed or anything like that. So we bring people in who have the talent, who we believe can get the job done. And then it's our job at that point. It's their job to do the work. It's our job to mold them into the company culture. So we don't focus so much on, of course, if somebody's giving us a really bad vibe in an interview, we're not gonna gonna go that route, you know, regardless of what their skill set and their experience has been. But if we feel pretty good about somebody, because there's a lot of companies that hire really great employees from other companies that were just doing an amazing job and contributing. And then they bring them into the wrong environment and they go stale because their ideas are suppressed, and then they become unhappy. The company culture is not there, and people don't want to work in that environment. And next thing you know, somebody with extreme talent becomes, their potential is never reached at that particular company, and it all has to do with leadership and not their skill set.
And leading by example.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, so then once the company grows, obviously BioTrust has done phenomenally well. So we're talking about 100 million plus in revenue the last how many years?
Well, it's 5 years now. Yeah, 6-year-old company, 5 years over 100 million. Yeah.
And that doesn't get old? Does that trip you out at all? I mean,
sometimes you got to pinch yourself and remind, I was a teacher making $42,000 a year.
Yeah, 10 years ago. Yeah, not that long ago.
I mean, I live a great lifestyle. I just took my family, 17 friends and family members, on vacation in South Africa.
Yeah, I saw the photos. Yeah.
Incredible trip. The entire vacation was several $100,000. I paid for everybody. No flights
problem.
And everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have the money and the resources to be able to do that because I put the work in. We provided value to the world. We solved problems.
Right.
And that's capitalism at its best. And then we're able to give so much back. Not only am I able to give back to charities and all those other things that we mentioned, but I'm able to impact people who I've been friends with or family with for a number of years, share with them experiences that have been, epic and incredible that they may not have been able to experience otherwise. And it's because of the work that I did to not only be able to do that for myself, but to be able to do that for others that I love and might care about. And that's where I get a lot of, the most fulfilling part of what I do is the impact that it has on other people. And there's no better impact than the impact that you have on the people that are closest to you, right? The people who were there,
loved ones.
the whole time, your loved ones, your family, your very, very close friends, to be able to do something special for them, to be able to help them in a unique way. We bought a house for my mother-in-law. We bought a house for my father-in-law. They're split up. They're not together, but we own the properties. But they have a life estate, and as long as they're here, they live there. I paid off my parents' mortgage. I bought my brother the car of his dreams. These are all things that I'm extremely proud of how I've been able to impact the lives of others in my family, my friends, people who are closest to us. I mean, we've been able to give people loans who are in a bad spot, who I knew were good for it and who I knew.
And at the same time, one of the biggest blessings is the fact that doing that doesn't even really affect you too much, right? Or
Right.
pinch you too much.
Right.
Huge
That's
blessing.
that's what I'm in such a blessed and fortunate position to be. Like, hey, we buy a $400,000 condo that my mother-in-law is living in now, and it doesn't change my life in any way. The revenue. I mean,
Yeah.
it didn't make any significant difference in my income for the year.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. And also, you have a pretty ridiculous house. You texted me the
Yeah.
photos. I love it. You said you bought it from a baseball player. It's right on the water in
Yeah,
Florida.
yeah, it's pretty awesome. Bought it from a baseball guy who had the house up for sale for various reasons. But there's a lot of athletes right in my neck of the woods. Ryan Howard from the Phillies was the MVP of Major League Baseball a few years ago. He lives down the road from me. Matt Strafford from the Detroit Lions, the quarterback, is building a house 5 houses down from me. And then the house that I purchased 4 years ago was from a very well-known baseball player. At one point in time, was the highest paid player in baseball. So,
Care to share his name, or would you rather?
I'd rather not. Yeah.
Gotcha. No worries. Yeah. So that's insane. So let me ask you this. So for people listening that might aspire, have these aspirations where like money and success and wanting to have an impact, like you're talking about, is important. How much does money truly buy happiness for somebody on the outside looking at this thinking, man, one day I want to be like that? Like,
It contributes. It's definitely not everything though, and this is where I think certain people think like, hey, if I acquire all this stuff, if I've got the big house, if I got the shiny cars, if I have the things and all the material things in my life, then I'll be happy. They can be motivators for people. They can push people to achieve a certain, they can definitely motivate. I was thinking like, hey, and for me, it was always about giving back to others. I'm like, hey, if I can get to a certain income level, then I can pay my parents' mortgage off, or I can buy my brother that car, And it was never really about the stuff that I was going to acquire for myself.
but that didn't hurt.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It doesn't hurt, and there's nothing wrong with going after that. And that's only part of, as long as you understand that's only part of the picture. It's only part of what we're going after here. It's not just the material things, because there's actors, there's celebrities, there's all these people who, if you're rich, you're famous, you got everything in the world, and you just committed suicide.
Right.
It's
Drug overdose, or
right.
whatever. Yeah.
And why is that? It's because nobody is immune to going through tough times, hard times, and a lot of that comes from the fact that these people's lives are just a cluster. They're a whirlwind of a mess. And they get caught up with the wrong people, the wrong thing. Although they're very famous, they're making money, they have all this material stuff, it doesn't necessarily bring happiness. It only brings happiness if you're using it in the right way, and then you also have the most important things dialed in your life. Your family life, your relationship with your spouse, your time with your kids, all those types of things. When that becomes the focus, your relationship with God, your time with your faith. For me, going to church every week is a big part of who I am.
Was God a big part of your life when you were broke in your 20s, trying to aim for all this big success?
So I grew up in the church. I came from a faith-based home. My mother is a very strong Christian woman, and she's a huge influence on me and the person I became. She was working as a secretary, what they now call executive assistant, I guess.
Middle-class household.
Yeah. My dad was a bus driver. It was lower middle class for sure. I grew up in a house that cost $80,000 until I was 13. Then we graduated to like a $120,000 home.
Yep.
So I grew up in that environment where, there wasn't a lot. And I came from a faith, but my mom was very strong in her faith. And she sacrificed a lot. She sent me and my brother to Christian school on her salary, which was a stretch. A private school on my family's income was a huge stretch. But I'm very grateful for that. That being said, I think we all, even for people who were raised in the church or from families like that, I think we all kind of venture out on our own and have maybe a prodigal son moment at some point in our lives where
faith maybe sways a little bit.
Faith sways a little bit. You try to figure out stuff on your own. You think, you can handle it by yourself. You don't need God. All these types of things. And I didn't necessarily ever feel that way. It was always part of who I was internally and my belief system, but it wasn't always part of my life in the way that I acted and conducted myself. So there was a period of time. I never did anything crazy. I never committed any major crimes or anything like that.
Like I said, major crimes.
Yeah.
So there was some minor ones in there.
I never. Well, I did some stupid stuff, but
What's one of the craziest things you've done?
well, I was 16 years old, and I was sleeping over a friend's house of mine, and we decided to take his dad's station wagon out. Neither of us had our license,
Yeah.
and go to Taco Bell
Yeah.
at 2 o'clock in the morning. We ended up being pulled over, and we got arrested. My parents had to come pick us up
Oh,
at the
man.
time, but
Yeah.
it was just dumb
Little
kid
stuff like that.
Yeah, it was nothing. I never got into any trouble. It was more just like being a naive teenager, and in your early 20s, you do dumb stuff. You make mistakes. You get too drunk one night or whatever, and things get out of hand. But I've never had anything. Fortunately, I've never had anything where I veered too far off the path. But there was a time where, like I didn't go to church for a number of years. Maybe I got there a few times here and there, but like it wasn't a regular part of my life. Now I'm extremely grounded in my faith again. But there was a period of time in my 20s where it wasn't as active of a part of my life as it should have been. And I'm grateful for those times and those opportunities, how God taught me lessons through all of that. And I look at every hardship that I face as an opportunity to learn and to grow. And fortunately, I always chose growth instead of not learning from experiences. And now, that was a several year period, and I got back to my faith. All the time that I was growing my business, I was very, very faith-based. I was very centered in my faith again. But it wasn't until just this last year where I started integrating my faith into my business and using my gifts to interject faith into what I was doing. I always treated them as very separate things. Like I got the business thing. This is part of my personal life with my faith, and then I got the business thing going on. And of course, in my interactions with colleagues and stuff like that, I had no problem talking about faith, and people knew that I was Christian and stuff. But I never publicly talked about that kind of stuff to the customer, to the end user. And that's what's really changed over the last year, and it's made a huge difference in the fulfillment I'm getting out of my work.
So looking back, would you have incorporated more of God being at a cornerstone in your life? Obviously, you learned lessons by that not being there at that time, maybe.
Yeah.
But looking back, like what would you have done differently? Maybe in terms of mindset, your relationship with God, anything like that.
So when I sent the first inspirational newsletter out to my ebook list, when I restarted that a year ago, last September, we had about 60,000 people on that list at the time. I sent my first inspirational newsletter out. People were signing up for health and fitness. They weren't signing up for inspiration.
Right.
So I was wondering how was this going to go. I sent a newsletter out. I wrote, whatever you call them, a devotional or something, whatever you would call it. It's just a newsletter or writing, a blog, whatever you want to call it, about miracles. And I spoke to the things, situations that people could be affecting people and hurting people, loss of a job, going through financial hardship, loss of a loved one, a mom or, a daughter or a son that's strayed away from the person that you've raised them to be, a divorce, terminal illness diagnosis, all this type of stuff. And I said, no matter what your situation is, no matter how big it is, there's a God who's bigger than your struggle. How do you tap into that for strength? Number one, you have to believe that God has your back. And number two, you need to surrender your situation. And I have a tattoo on my forearm, freedom and surrender, and that's a big part that I had to be reminded of throughout my professional career, that I was always trying to figure out stuff and fix problems on my own. A lot of worry, a lot of stress. I was internalizing so much. And every time finally I would wake up and say, God, let me just turn this over to you. Please give me peace about the situation and help me direct my path. Not that like I was giving up on it and say,
Right.
God, you just figure it out.
Yeah.
But direct my path. Let me have the right conversations with the right people. Put me in touch with the correct person who can help me fix this.
Yeah.
And every time I
guide
did
me.
that, guide me, exactly. I'm not asking for you to do it. I'm just saying, just point me in the right direction so I can do this without like feeling like I'm spinning my wheels for days or weeks at a time. And every time I did that, things very quickly it got back to where they needed to be. And I was just encouraging people that, when you surrender, you can trust God, that He's going to have your back. And no matter how the situation works out, He'll use that situation for your good. I quoted a couple Bible verses to that effect. And then I asked people, if you are in a situation right now that seems like it's dire, you're hurting, hit reply. If you would like somebody to pray with you, I have some team members who would like to agree with you in prayer. You don't have to give us the full extent of your situation. Share as much as you like or as little as you like, but we're here to support you and pray with you. So we did that. At the time, the newsletter list was like 60,000 people. We would get maybe 20 to 30 responses to our average nutrition newsletter, and we have 400 responses to this one.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's when I was like, I just saw at that point in time, as like I had a conversation with God where I just apologized for waiting this long. I'm 35 years old at this point. I'm 35 years old. I've been in business for 8-9 years now. I built these massive followings, massive email lists, send this health and fitness content, and then the first time that I've had the balls to put my faith out there, right, and inspire somebody about something that's bigger picture, flood of responses come in, and I just see how needed it is. So I'm talking to God, and I'm like, God, I can't change the past. I'm embarrassed that it's taken me this long to put this type of message out here. It's always been a part of my core belief system, but why haven't I shared it? I don't have the answer to that, but for darn sure, I'm going to make sure that this is my mission moving forward, that I'm going to get these messages of hope and inspiration out, and I'm going to build this next email list as big as I possibly can. And I wasn't even thinking about Instagram at the time, but I'm going to build this email list as big as I can, and I'm going to keep pumping out these inspirational messages. So we start doing one a week, one inspirational message per week. And every time we put something out there, and the list is growing into the hundreds of thousands, every time we put something out there, we would get hundreds, if not thousands, of responses. And then the thing that was a catalyst for me getting on Instagram was Easter season was coming around in March, and I felt this tug on my heart, like, hey, I want you to tell people the real meaning of the season here. And I sent an inspiring message about like how many times I messed up in my own life, how many times I screwed up. I'm not perfect, that I've made so many mistakes. And the only reason why I have the opportunity to share this with you today is because I'm a sinner saved by grace. And I talked about God's grace. I talked about the whole story of God sending His Son to be the redemption of mankind, all this. And then at the end, I said, look, if this newsletter hit home with you, no matter what you've done, you're not too far gone. God's got your back. He's waiting for you to just turn your chin towards Him. And if you're interested, pray this prayer below. And I had a prayer that just allowed people to turn their life over to God. And then I said, if you pray that prayer, please reply. I have team members that will be excited to celebrate with you about this extremely important, impactful decision that you made in your life. And we have some resources. Because a lot of people, they get involved with faith, and it's like an experience for the time. Like they read the newsletter, they feel something in their heart, the Spirit comes, on their life, and then like, I know I need to do this. And then they go about their business, and the day goes on, and next thing you know, it's right back to living the same way. So we wanted to give people resources and tell them how to get plugged into a church and understand how to read the Bible and stuff like that. But we have 4,000 people respond to that, 4,000. And that's when I was just like, I need to get this message out on other platforms, because people are being inspired, their lives are being changed. I sent a message out on forgiveness. I had many people respond with something akin to, like, this is just one example, but we had hundreds of these that they said, because of your newsletter, I reached out to my mother I haven't spoken to for 10 years, and we're having lunch tomorrow. Please pray for me.
And that influence is way more fulfilling than the income. Yeah.
Incredible, the impact there, right? And we see people restoring relationships, doing life better, changing the course of their life, having better relationships with their spouses, with their kids, becoming better moms,
better relationships with themselves too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's not just personal development; it's family development, it's life development. So we're teaching people, and again, I'm I'm a teacher, but I always lead every one of my lessons with like, I messed up on this so many times, and I learned these lessons, and here I'm sharing what I learned from it. So it always comes from a place of transparency and authenticity. I'm not the guy who's preaching to you and telling you, why don't you have it figured out? I'm like, I didn't have it figured out. I still don't quite have it figured out, but I learned a lot of lessons along the way on this topic, and I'm going to share with you what I did learn and how I think it can help you. And everyone has been resonating with that extremely, extremely well, and that's what I'm doing right now, man. This is my calling. I'm moving from career to calling. I'm still doing the ebook stuff. I'm still doing the supplement stuff, but I'm getting crazy fulfillment from what I'm doing now, which is inspiring other people to live the life that they were born to live.
Dude, that's so powerful, my man. So before we wrap up, I got three more questions for you, and then we have a game at the end.
Okay.
So the first question is, what are some of the most difficult challenges or some of the most tough times that you've had to deal with that maybe you haven't shared before that you overcame, and maybe share a little bit about how you overcame them, and maybe it could resonate with people around the world that might be listening to this and maybe right now are listening to it in a place where they're stuck or they're lost or they're broke, or maybe their relationship just ended, or maybe they're where you were when you were 25 looking for answers. So can you talk first off of like, what were some of the most challenging times of your life and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so I could start all the way back going to all the no's that I got and the failures that I had getting into business. But I'm going to fast forward, and I think this would be a little bit even more inspirational because I'm going to tell you two situations that I was involved in when I was already running a $100 million company. And people will think that I got it made. I would just snap my fingers and trade places with you any day. And which, if I was that was them, I would do the same thing, right? And take whatever problems came with it. But you're not immune to problems when you're running big business. In fact, you have a lot of problems to deal with.
Bigger problems.
You wake up to problems every single day, and it was that way for a long period of time. But we have an aspiration to bring investors on and to sell part of the company and eventually exit the company down the line. And part of that is growing revenue month after month, quarter after quarter, year after year, right? So we hit $1 million, and now we have a really high bar that's set, and we have to grow that continually.
Right, yeah.
How do we get to 110 million next year? How do we get to 120, 130 million next year? What new channels do we have to open up and all this? So we were doing that, and we had a bunch of, we were doing very well on Google Display Network. We were spending over $3 million a month at one point. I think I may have shared that. Spending over $3 million a month on Google Display Network, and wake up one day and we got the Google slap, which is basically your account got banned. So we could not run any ads.
Zero.
Nothing. Zero. You log in and say your dashboard is available to check stats, but you cannot run ads. Your account is under restricted status or whatever. Right. We had people who we had account reps with Google and all that stuff, and we're going through the channels. They were not able to get it reversed quickly. We're hoping to get it reversed within 24 hours because, this is like, I don't know, $50,000 to $100,000 a day that was coming in through these ads. And we were dependent on that for growing the top line revenue. 3 weeks go by, we still have no resolution. I am beside myself. I'm the marketing guy. I'm responsible for all the revenue. And this was happening when we were looking for a minority investment that year.
Right.
So this was a big year for us, and we had to hit our budget. We had to hit our numbers. And then this happened smack dab in the middle of it. Takes away $3 million of revenue from us. I'm stressed out. I'm crazy amount of worry. I'm borderline depressed. My wife is sees it all over my face. I'm carrying it with me everywhere I go. I'm being short with my wife. I'm being short with my kids. I'm disciplining my kids, and I'm running out of patience way faster than I would otherwise, all because of the stress that's come from the job.
Mm-hmm. That's leaking into everything else.
That's leaking into the rest of my life. Yeah. And similar situation happened a couple of years prior to that, when the company that we were sending our email through, all of our email service provider, the company that we would send our newsletters through, they made some really poor business decisions with how they were going to treat their customers, and we needed to get off the platform and find a new provider. So I was in the midst of doing that, and we were moving a list of 2 million people. This was in December. All this happened. This company made these really crappy decisions basically they took away our ability to contact a lot of our customers out of the blue, and for reasons that were very faulty, and their algorithm that they determined who were inactive contacts was all wrong, and I proved it wrong, but they weren't budging on it. So I said, okay, well, we're going to have to move. This was in December. This is like December 15th,
Right.
going into the holidays. I'm spending the second half of December dealing with this nonsense of transitioning to another email provider, spending my time, all stuff that I would spend zero time on otherwise, if we just send email like we do normally.
Right.
I'm spending all my time for the next 2 weeks on, something that just crept out of nowhere during the holidays. Then on Christmas Eve, I was trying to work out email delivery issues with the new platform that we were on. I got to know the owner of the CEO of the company very well through this transition, but we became like enemies in
Right.
the first couple of weeks. We're very good friends now, but we became like enemies the first couple of weeks because things were not moving smoothly, and everyone was blaming one another.
Right. Pointing fingers. Yeah.
And here we are moving into January. Our company revenue is half email. 50% of our company revenue comes in January. It's more like 70%,
Right.
because it's such a big time for the weight
Holiday
loss industry.
season,
Right?
commitment, fitness, New Year's goals.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. The whole New Year's rush in health and fitness. You see gym memberships go up. People buy a lot more supplements. We were anticipating a huge January, and our email open rates had tanked from like we were at plus 20% plus, down to single digits. And I didn't know what to do. I was so stressed out about it. I was on the phone with these guys constantly, all the time, trying to work out the issues. The issues were not improving.
And it's funny because, and I don't mean to interject, but it's funny because you're not feeling the other millions and millions of dollars that are being made, right? You're just feeling that little thing.
I'm feeling what
Really
we're
interesting.
losing.
Exactly.
It's all about what we're losing. It's not about the other
Right.
millions that are coming in. It's about the hundreds of thousands that we're losing.
I just
over this
wanted to
period.
mention that so people listening could, get a glimpse of the context there.
Yeah. And it's not like, hey, I'm not grateful for the other stuff coming in. I just know we have goals to hit, and this is a big month, and like this is going to be extremely negative for us if we don't get this turned around.
Right.
So here I am messing with this in the holidays, it's affecting my family life again. All this was going on, and the only thing that saved me was, again, this is the whole reason why I got this tattoo, bro. Is I reached my wit's end. We were losing so much money. I was having screaming matches with this guy on the phone, because I was about to lose it.
And you're a pretty chill guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it says something.
Yeah. I mean, I was at the end of my rope when it came to like my patience level with this, and they promised all this stuff. They didn't feel like they were delivering on it. I'm blaming him. He's blaming me, saying we're not doing X, Y, Z.
How long ago was this?
This was the second year of BioTrust. So this was in 2014.
Okay.
The end of 2013 into 2014. The other issue that I mentioned was in 2016 with Google. But so here we are. The only thing that got me through that is finally, after like just having a breakdown pretty much, I said, God, I can't handle this myself. Guide me. I'm going to leave this up to you. I'm going to stop trying to figure it out by myself in my own strength, because it's obviously getting me nowhere. I'm doing nothing but losing all of my peace. Give me peace. And I just felt this huge weight lifted off of me, even though nothing had changed in that moment with the situation. I just felt like I turned it over to God, and it's up to him now just to put me in the right frame of mind to fix this the right way, instead of doing it with so much anger and frustration and loss of patience and all that. The next day, we get on the phone with the Maripost team, with the CEO and the director of deliverability. We had a much different conversation than we've been having. It was very calm. It's more of a brainstorm. How can we fix this? We came up with a couple different ideas to try. We tried one of them the next day. It looked very promising. And ultimately, we were able to fix the problem with the next day we had that call, and we came up with the solution after I said, God, just help me handle this situation. So I surrendered. And again, this is not just work stuff, this is life. You could be going through something that is, you think your situation is dire, and it may be. Maybe you just lost somebody who was extremely close to you. You don't know how you're going to survive without them. Maybe, or you don't understand why, or you don't understand why it's not fair. so many things that happen in life. You know, maybe you lose a job and then your family is struggling for a while.
It's a health issue with yourself or a loved one or something.
And in every situation, so in that email situation, right, this provider that we were with made some decisions I didn't agree with. We had to move. It was a struggle for about 3 weeks through the holidays. It was a miserable time for me. But once I surrendered and we got over the hump, then our open rates were higher than they were at the other provider, and we were making even more money. So then I look back and say, God, why did you put me through that? And then I see, oh, you were trying to get me away from this provider because you knew that maybe they weren't the most ethical in the way that they were doing things long term. And you wanted to push me to a company that we've been with for 4.5 years now. I have a great relationship with the CEO. We're very good friends. One of my I would consider a very good friend. He wanted to introduce me over here, but the only way to get me away from this was to cut it off.
Right.
And then he's like, while we're making this transition, I'm going to build some character with you at the same time and teach you some lessons about trusting me and that I know what I'm doing. And then when it does work out, you can look back and say, yeah, I should have trusted you the whole time. And I should have just depended on you to show me the way instead of wondering why I was in a situation that I wish I never was in.
Spinning in circles.
Right. Right. Or even the fact that I'm like, why did this company make these dumb decisions that forced me to leave? I just wish that never happened. When I look back on it, I'm grateful that it happened because now we're in a much better position. We're making more money. Our open rates are better. We're reaching more customers. We're having greater impact. And then with the Google thing, it ended up being the same thing. And it didn't take me 3 weeks this time to realize, even though the problem lasted almost as long, I very quickly remembered that, I need to surrender this and give this over to God and allow him to guide my path in fixing it. And he did. After I just stopped trying to fix it my own, stopped being frustrated, and stopped calling all the people at Google stupid, then we networked our way to the right person. They turned their account back on. Then we were good to go. So those are two situations. This is coming from a guy who's making millions of dollars every year with a business that's, hundreds of millions, over $100 million a year. And people think that people who are running that type of income, running this type of company, that you got it made. You don't have problems.
You're chilling on a beach.
Yeah. I'm dealing with stress, probably even more than I did when I was a teacher. Different types of problems, call them first world problems, but they're problems nonetheless, and they can really affect you. And this is the same reason how celebrities and other people of influence, who other people look up to, can be genuinely unhappy, or they have a lot of stuff, they're making a lot of money, you think they know a lot of people, everybody loves them, but their personal life is a wreck because they don't understand how to tap it. Because everyone deals with setbacks and obstacles and problems. And I think a lot of people don't understand how to deal with those situations when they come around because they don't have that faith background where they're just trying to,
it's all on them, not on something bigger.
It's all on them, exactly. And when it has been all on me, it's been devastating. And when I give it up, that's when I get the breakthroughs.
Like almost like God is your spotter in a sense, right? Yeah. That's powerful, man. Amen to that. I love that. So the two questions I have, and these are much simpler, but I love that last one, is for people out there who are looking at you and what you've done, the ups and the downs and the roller coasters, and want to learn from you. Like, what would you say to someone out there who really wants to start making their life work? Like, what would you recommend that they do in their mindset? Like, what shift, or like what is it that if Joel had 60 seconds to bless the world with everything you've learned thus far, what would you share with the world? If you could look into the camera and share your best 60 seconds piece of wisdom, what would it be?
Yeah, and this goes to something that my good friend BioTrust says, and he says, what would you do if you weren't being paid? If you had everything, all your expenses were taken care of, you were good, but you weren't getting any additional income from it. You just had your needs met. You lived in a reasonable sized home, you had your bills paid for, you had food on the table, clothes on your back. What would you do in that situation? Now, do that. Make an impact through your passion. Most people are doing things, waking up every day, doing things that they hate, doing things that they do not enjoy, doing things that they cannot ever have maximum impact doing because They're doing things that they're not passionate about. So find your passion, dig deep. You may not, that may seem a little abstract to you and you don't really know what you're passionate about, but think about what you really love to do. What would you do every day? If you could wake up every day and do it, know that your needs are being met, but it wasn't a job. It wasn't, you weren't in a rat race to make 6 figures a year or get promoted and all this. What would you be doing? Harness that, start there, and then explore ways how you can add value to the world and solve problems through that passion, through that gift that you have, and then start finding ways to create income out of that. If you can do that, if you start with your passion, and there's a lot of resources out there about turning passion into profits and starting small businesses around things that you love, I encourage people. It's not saying that a regular job as an employee is not for, is nobody should be doing that. There's plenty of people who are passionate about their jobs. There are plenty of people who are passionate about the team that they're on and the vision and supporting. We have a lot of people in our company at BioTrust who they're extremely passionate about the mission of BioTrust and they love their jobs. And if that's you, that's awesome. Keep going. But if you're one of these other people that Omar was talking about, if you're somebody who's struggling, the roller coaster, you're looking for direction, start with what you would do if you weren't getting paid and take it from there. When you harness that as the foundation of what you're moving forward to in your career, you're never going to steer yourself wrong because you're going to be following your passion. You're going to be following and your passion are those things that God puts inside of your heart from, as a teenager, as a kid, whatever. And he didn't put those things in your heart, those dreams and ambitions in your heart, and that love that you have for whatever it is that you're passionate about. He didn't put that ingrained into your DNA, into who you are, because he didn't want you to experience it at full throttle and experience it in a way that can impact others. So if you can start there, realize that's God's direction on your life to chase after that. That's why he put it in your heart, and you can start going after it, and that be the focus and the foundation of what your purpose in life, your direction in life, where you're going. If you can go there and start there, you're going to be well ahead of other people, and you're going to be well on the path of true happiness and finding your direction and your purpose in life, because it all starts with what God's already put inside of you, and now you need to bring it to the rest of the world.
I love that, man. Longer than 60 seconds, but worth every second over.
Yeah.
And then the last question before we play our game is, looking back on your life, and obviously you still have a long way to go and many ambitions and people you want to bless and impact you want to have, what have you found to be the most important thing? Like, obviously, at first it was like, money, business. Now it's sort of matured to, having an impact in God and making faith a part of your life. So, like, looking back for somebody listening to this at any age, what have you found to be the most important thing to always keep in mind in life? Like, what is the most important thing to you? Is it family? Is it love? Is it God? Is it a culmination of all those things? Like, what is truly, you've been to the mountaintop, so to speak.
Yeah.
What have you found to be the most important thing in life?
For me, it's 100%. You see in my Instagram profile, God first, family second, in that order. Work is a distant third. Relationships probably are in the third spot, and then work after that. Now, obviously, you need to work to provide for your family and all those things. But every single time that I have allowed God to fall out of that first spot, the rest of everything else has suffered. And every single time I put him in that first spot where I honored him first, where I made sure that I had time, where I'm talking to God every single day, that I'm regularly going to church to be spiritually fed, that's when all the other things, my family life it gets so much better. All the stuff with work, like the business is flourishing. I'm not having a lot of stress or a lot of problems because I'm relying on God to fight my battles when the tough times do come up. But when I let him slip out of that, and I in my own human strength, try to deal with all this stuff, there's a lot of stress in family and raising 2 kids. There's a lot of stress in a marriage. There's a lot of stress in running that company and that business. There's a lot of stress in other interpersonal relationships that we have. And if I'm trying to do it myself and in my own strength, I realize that I'm not very good at it, and I don't have the strength to deal with all these things that life is throwing at me all at one time. But when I do keep God first, and it's been several years now where I made sure that he's in the first position, I've That doesn't mean nothing bad happens. It doesn't mean that everything is smooth sailing. It just means that when I do face those situations, I have superhuman strength, and I can fight those battles in a way that I wouldn't be able to as if I didn't have that strength that I'm pulling from a higher power.
I love that. So now it's time for the game. You ready?
Yeah.
So the game's called First Things First. And basically we play this with every guest at the end of every interview. And how the game works is I'm going to list off, it's 10 words or phrases, and then you tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So I'll say a word or phrase, and then you just tell me intuitively what comes quick. Okay. The only rule is that you can't repeat yourself twice.
Okay.
All right, ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right. So number 1, fitness.
Bill Phillips.
Number 2, money.
Joel Marion.
Number 3, what most people do wrong in life and business.
Try to figure out things in their own strength.
Failure.
Can be overcome through perseverance.
Rejection.
That's where I can't repeat myself. Embrace it. It's going to happen. Use it to fuel you and not destroy you.
Your wife, kids, and family.
Most important thing to me outside of my relationship with Christ.
God.
The number one thing.
Impact.
My calling. This is what I'm doing. This is my future.
Passion.
You have to be passionate in order to have impact.
And the last one, you ready? Joel Marion's legacy.
I've answered this question several times. The answer is always the same, and it's that I want people to remember me as a giver, somebody who walks into a room, tries to make every single person in that room better. Every relationship that I enter into, I'm depositing into that Goodwill bank account much more than I'm ever withdrawing from it. And at the end of the day, I want people to say, this is a generous dude. He gave of his time. He gave of his resources. He gave financially. He supported the efforts that mattered. He took care of his family. He invested in his relationships with others, in business relationships. And he's somebody that I like to model my life after because he made everybody else better.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for making this room better and giving your energy, brother.
Thank you.
Boom, knuckles. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode. That's a wrap. And you can follow Joel Marion at the description below, as well as follow his podcast, Born to Impact, on iTunes and all podcast platforms soon. Until next time, we'll see you guys, and thank you for being one of the passionate few.
Oh, and guys, before you forget, don't forget to check out the description below for access to merch, links, and upcoming courses we have to help you become one of the passionate few in your life, in your business, and maybe with your own show as well. Wishing you nothing but passion, profit, and purpose, my friends. See you guys next time.
If you guys enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we bring you the very best in personal development content, interviews, and insight to help inspire you to take your life and your dreams and make them a reality. And also, if you want to know how to book dream guests the same way I have, you can check the link below for my top 3 secrets. So if you have a podcast or a show or whatever it is and you want to collaborate with them, if you click that link below, I'll give you those top 3 secrets to help you get in touch with anybody. And also, don't forget that The Passionate Few is available on media platforms as well. So you can subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, thank you for being one of the passionate few.